Welcome to Konfidence with Katheleen, hosted by me, Katheleen Diggle. Welcome back. Today I'm still with Dr. Nicole, so thank you to have us, at your place. So the first podcast that Dr. Nicole, you came to my place and we were talking about a lot of things. But you said, hey, if you want to come to my place, I have a pony and we can. I was so excited about it and you accept to do it again, so thank you.
You're welcome.
So can you explain us what we will talk a little bit today?
So this is Hot Dog. He was a pony. He's my friend's pony. He died of old age, and crazy thing was that he could hardly move. We thought he was covered in arthritis, but there's really no arthritis on him, so it must have been all soft tissue. But today we're going to go over the anatomy of the horse. I'm going to start at the skull, and we're going to work all the way down, and then we'll even put it on my horse to kind of show a comparison so you can see where the bones are on the horse, on the body.
I'm so excited about that. Okay, so we will start.
Okay, so let's just start at the head.
With the head. I will hold it. Okay.
So this is the skull. I know a lot of people have questions as far as the TMJ. So TMJ, you have the mandible, and it comes in and it articulates with the temporal bone here. So when a horse chews, they'll bite this way, and then they chew in a rotation like this, and they push the teeth, or they push the food back to these back teeth. So what this TMJ does, when you're talking about as far as like if you have a TMJ that's out, you'll get a rotation like this. It can either go lateral or medial, but it's one bone, kind of like a bucket handle. So if it moves, let's turn it this way. So if it moves like here, what we do is we'll adjust here and we push that back and we'll bring it back to this midline. But it is one bone and it will move as one bone. So you're going to do both sides. When you're talking about the pole is occiput, so this is occiput, the back of the skull, same thing on us right here. And then this is the cervical vertebra. It comes in here and attaches like this. This is C1 or atlas. This is C2 or axis. So C1, where it articulates with the occiput, that makes your pole joint. So when you're to ask if the pole is out, you're talking about occiput. It can either be rotated like that, or C1 can have actually a lot of rotation. It can go this way, it can move like this, and there's different ways you can contact that as well. You have a lot of nerves that come down in here. They have facial nerves. You have one that's coming out of this hole here, one that's coming out of here, and you got one coming out of here, but those can also be affected when that TMJ goes out, because these muscles, and I'll show an app at the end that y'all can download, and you can kind of go over the anatomy yourself. It has bones, muscles, superficial, deep. It has tendons, arteries, all that on there. So you can kind of learn yourself. But there's these really big muscles, especially it's called masseter. We have the same one. It attaches here, comes down here. Huge muscle of mastication, so where it makes them move, the jaw. That, when the TMJ will go out, that muscle will get really, really tight, and it can create pressure on those nerves too. So that's where people will see a lot of problems with like not wanting their ears to be touched, being head shy, throwing the head. I know a lot of people ask about hyoid too, so we don't have the hyoid bone here because it does sit inside of here, and I just got Hot Dog's body out of the pasture, so I got whatever bones were left. But hyoid will sit here. On a human, it does not articulate with any other bone. On a horse, it will come in and articulate up inside of here into almost that TMJ joint. It has one articulation. But hyoid is very deep and sets in here. It also comes to the tongue. So a lot of times you can stretch and move the tongue and you can get some kind of release in that hyoid. But to actually touch hyoid, we cannot get to that back there.
I have a question.
Okay.
So when you can adjust the TMJ or the pole, but sometimes they inject the pole or the TMJ. Can you explain us what it does when they do that?
Yes, so you have your joint. Your joint has fluid around it. So synovial fluid, that surrounds the joint. Most of the time with injections, what they're injecting is, not all the time, so most of the time, you're injecting like a hyaluronic acid and a steroid in there, a cortisone, something to help with inflammation. So you're putting fluid back in the joint. So when you're injecting, they're going to just inject into that joint and take out the inflammation. So same thing here. There is a disc. So just like you have disc in between the vertebra, there is a disc right here in that TMJ too. So you can get issues in that. And then I'll show you yeah.
Okay.
But so when that happens, or if that disc gets inflamed, you don't have that motion like it should kind of rotate around it like this. And so that's what the injections are doing.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so going into the cervical, this is 6. So the last cervical vertebra.
We can let the head there.
We can put him down. Okay, so this is C7, and it goes just like that. Perfect. So you have 7 cervical vertebrae, which really cool is almost all animals do. We have 7, horses have 7, giraffes have 7, dogs have 7 cervicals. But it comes down into the thoracic spine, and it comes down pretty low. And when we put it on the horse, you'll see it's kind of, you wouldn't imagine that's where it's at. And then we go into the thoracic spine. The thoracic spine has 18 vertebrae. So let me grab the rest of it. So
I can put that one there. Okay.
We'll switch sides. Go that
Yeah,
way.
perfect.
Okay, so the thoracics go like this. Okay, so we have 18 thoracics, and then we have 6 lumbar. So when you talk about withers, I know when you look at a horse, you would think it kind of goes up high, and then the withers are up higher than the rest of the spine, but it is a straight line coming across. You just have longer spinous processes than the withers. So something that's kind of chiropractic wise is when people have horses that get really, really sore in the withers too, I'll ask about how do you get on your horse? Do you grab your saddle horn and pull yourself up? So if you think about leverage, when you go back to your physics classes, you got your saddle horn sitting here. If I pull, I have a lot more mechanical advantage over the horse because you have this long spinous. So grab the mane here, and when we put it on the horse, you'll see the horse will have more of a mechanical advantage because they have so much muscle between the neck and then where you're grabbing.
So you want to whisk
Yes.
the wethers like that and don't put a pressure on it. Yeah.
Okay, so then we have 18 ribs. We're missing some ribs in here. 8 ribs attached to the sternum. We also don't have sternum, but so sternum's gonna sit right in here, and the first 8 ribs will attach to that. Then we come down into the lumbar. So lumbar, these are called TVPs or facets. I know a lot of people get facets injected. So what you're talking about facets are these spaces in between here. And so you inject in that. The same thing we were talking about with the neck or the pole when you're injecting, you're trying to get inflammation out of that joint space in between there. And you have disc in between here. When you talk about kissing spine, you're talking about the spinous processes getting closer right here. The biggest thing you can do for that as preventative, or if your horse has kissing spine, is strengthen. So what happens, like when you see those little old ladies hunched over like this, it's a weak core and it makes your back weak. And as you strengthen core, it'll bring your back up. Same concept with the horse. Strengthening core will lift up the back and it will make them stronger. So anything you can do as far as collection work, getting them to go over like cavalettes on the ground, you're going to strengthen the abdomen and it will help lift up and open up those spinuses to make this stronger so that it's not taking that weight. So horses are not meant to be rode. The way their bodies are designed, we put all of our weight right here in the weakest part of their spine, right? It's like a suspension bridge and we set it all here. So that's the importance of your saddle fit. You want your saddle to fit and distribute the weight across so you're not putting everything in one spot at that weakest joint, right? So,
and there's when there's some saddle that hit the wethers too. You know that it's painful.
It's not big enough. You're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So in that, you want to make sure that you have enough space. You should have at least 2 to 3 fingers in between your top of your horse's withers and then your saddle.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're going to go into the lumbar. So we come down into the lumbar. The big thing I see with like bigger guys, I want to say heel horses, is you'll see these bigger guys on these tiny horses and their tree will come back into the lumbar. So the way that your angle of your tree is meant to follow the angle of the ribs. Okay, so that's the angle that you're going off of, right? We have this really big muscle right here. We call it our top line. that's going to help support all these structures on the side and keep it stable. So when that tree will come back farther into that lumbar, there's not as much support, and you can see how it can take more lateral movement, right? Because it doesn't have these ribs. You can see how itty bitty these TVPs are versus how wide these are. So when you start pushing on the sides here, you can create a lot of motion in there. So that's just another thing. You want to make sure your saddle doesn't come back into your lumbar spine. It should go within your ribs and your thoracic spine, and that's how it's designed to fit. Okay, so now we come back into the pelvis.
So can I have can I ask a question? What about when they say about the SI, the sciatic and everything? Is that affect from the back over there, or it goes more on the hip?
So that's more here. So your SI is going to be your sacrum and your ilium. So it's your sacral iliac joint. So it's this itty bitty joint in there. And
you want me to turn it, or I can put that one there?
Can you see it like this? Yep. So the SI joint is going to be this joint right in there.
Yeah.
And so this is sacrum, this is ilium. This right here, that is what we call, like when you put your hands on the top and you can feel the SI joint, this is what you're feeling right here. This part is this part of them, and I'll show you when we get to the horse. But this sacrum, when they walk, ilium should move like this, and sacrum will move like this. So that is that SI joint, all of that right there. So if that is inflamed, if it's out, you don't get that motion, and so they won't move correctly, and it will be painful. So when you're injecting SIs, you're injecting in that little bitty joint right there.
Okay.
Which is crazy. You think that something so small could make it, I mean, they get very painful in the SIs.
So when the sacrum here, we said sometime I'm saying I'm feeling it's out. How does it move? We said that it's out, and what can you do? Yeah, exactly.
So sacrum can move like, maybe let's turn it this way. So sacrum can move, this is what we call the base, this is what we call the apex. Sacrum can move like this, so it can go base posterior, it can go base lateral, either way. It could go apex either way, and it can go apex like this. So it can get a lot of, when we talk about motion in a joint though, you're talking about millimeters. We're not talking about this massive amount.
Yeah.
But we're talking about, this can move so much. It has a lot of motion in it as far as like the ways that it can subluxate.
Okay. So, but when one is like, because I just did a horse yesterday, and I'm feeling like that horse, when he tried to push, you know, it was his right hip that was very sore, but I was feeling like the pelvis, but the sacrum too, and even sometimes, is there some nerves that can affect there, and that makes them like almost if you knock your elbow or things like that, that it can be sensitive?
Yeah, so sacrum is one bone, but it fuses together. So same thing with us. When you're babies, this is not all fused together, and then it fuses all together as one. You see these little holes? All these little holes that you see are where nerves are coming out. So even right here, there's a nerve that comes out. So when you talk about a nerve root, so like this would be the nerve root coming out between, right here is L1 and L2. This is coming out between L2 and L3, L3 and L4. And so when you have a rotation or it's inflamed, it's going to put pressure on that nerve because that's the only little space it has to come out. So if you make that space smaller, it's going to have pressure.
Okay.
So that's what you're feeling.
That's, okay, perfect.
All right. And so then this is the back leg, right? So this is femur head. Whorl bones, this is whorl bone. I don't know where that name came from, but whorl bone is where the femur head goes into the acetabulum. So just like this, okay? So when the leg goes back, it rotates the ilium forward. When the leg goes forward, it's going to rotate the ilium back. So when you're talking about, like I'll say when I work with farriers, like, hey, if you have a horse that stands really well and then they stop standing, they will not put that leg back or put it forward on the stand. Well, a lot of the times I'll tell them square them up, go to the SIs, and they'll be out because when you bring the leg back, then if the hip is rotated, it's painful. And the same thing you're talking about with that horse yesterday. You said when he goes to push off. So he's coming back here and having to push off. Well, if that hip is not, if it's stuck and it's not able to move, then it is painful, and then we're still asking them to drive through that. And move out.
Because he was able to do it, but it's like once in a while he was feeling like the electricity, and then he started like, I cannot handle it. So he balked. The owner, that was not good, but yeah.
Well, what I have found too a lot with, I work on a lot of barrel horses, is so a common subluxation for the pelvis is ilium goes one way and sacrum will go the opposite. When they go the both, so this rotates here and this rotates like this, I see where they can't drive the inside leg up underneath them because there's just no range of motion. They can bring it here, but they can't bring it up under them when they go to turn that barrel. So making sure that pelvis is open and it has that full range, because I mean, you're looking straight at it, it's not a big joint. Right?
Yeah, it's not.
And so if it gets rotated, there's no room to go. So it's gonna restrict them being able to bring this leg up under them or extend it back far.
Okay.
Okay, so going on the leg, so like that goes right in there. So when we check as far as see if your horse is out in their hips, you square them up, because just like I said, if the leg is forward, it's gonna put that hip back. So square them up on level ground, and you go to this SI joint, and it should be even when you put your hands on there. If one side's higher than the other, pelvis is out, it needs to be adjusted. All right, we can put that guy down.
But I have a question.
Okay.
So you talk about because I always said a lot about the wall bone that I'm feeling. It's really painful on a lot of horses, and even I'm feeling sometimes that and I can be wrong, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but sometimes they inject the stifle, but it's like if the wall bone, it's so sensitive that create does that make sense? Is it possible?
So on a person, right, so this is our femur head, this is the femur head, right, so it would be like this right here, okay? This is stifle. Stifle is knee. So this is their knee. Okay, this patella sits right here. When on us, just so it's easier to kind of get in your head, if the ankle goes out, your knee goes in, your hip goes out. You're not going to affect one without the other. Same thing here. So the stifle, if they're injecting the stifle, if that stifle is ouchy, you're going to feel it coming up. I mean, here is stifle, here is your femur head or your wall bone. So it could very much correlate the two.
Okay, perfect.
It's
So
just trying to figure out which one's a primary and which one's a secondary.
okay, you want me to put it there?
You can put him up. Okay, so this is the back leg.
You want me to hold that?
Yeah, you can. So this is femur head, right here, our femur. This is the largest bone in the body for us. You come in here, we're missing patella. It should sit right here. What's really cool about this is, let me see this guy real quick.
Yes.
Come up close. So the meniscus is still in here. So this is your medial meniscus, and this is your lateral meniscus. On a person, this would be your PCL. We're missing the ACL on this one. This would be your LCL and your MCL. So it's kind of cool to see all those ligaments and how they work. And you can see how the meniscus is a disc, and if you get a tear or if it rips, then you could see how that's going to create pain, because this is supposed to be a cushion so that femur can rotate or have an axis over that tibia. Okay, so you can have them back. All right, so then this is tibia, and then fibula broke off. He's right here. It's on this other one. So fibula is really small. So here's fibula. It broke off. It's almost pointless. A lot of times fibula will come down and fuses into the tibia here. It's not the bone doesn't really do much. This guy, I'll show you the meniscus on here again, because this one's a little bit more hydrated still. But you can see how they function, and you can see how it works on both sides. I think that's the coolest thing.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So then we go down in here. So this is stifle. Stifle is the knee. A lot of people call the front leg the knee, and that is the carpal, so like the bones in our hands, which we'll go over that too. So then we come down. This is your cannon bone. And then you have your long pastern, your short pastern. Here's your coffin, and it sits right in here like this. So that is the mechanism of the leg. That is how that works. This right here is a sesamoid. What a sesamoid is a bone, and the tendon comes across it, and it gives the body more of a mechanism, like more of a fulcrum. So those are what sesamoids are for. They're not really attached to the body. They're called free-floating bones. They sit in here, and they just create a fulcrum for the tendon to go over and make it stronger. Okay, you got questions
So
like this?
that's the hock here?
This is the hock, yeah.
The hock. Okay, so what about the hock? Because I feel like very often, all the time, they said that the problem is the hock.
So
They go and inject the hock all the time.
So
yeah.
the hock they're called tarsals.
Can you
don't
see?
have it on that one, no.
Yeah.
So you can't really see them in here because they're gone, but there's bones are here. So you got 2 rows of bones right here. And then this is calcaneus. So this is just like your heel. So a lot of people will think the joint of the hock is that big thing that sticks out the back. It's not. That's this. It's their heel. It's calcaneus. The joint is actually in the front where those 2 rows of bones go. How we adjust the tarsals is when you come here and you push, if I have motion in this bone here, it'll push on these tarsals and it'll create a flexion in the toe. And I'll show you on my horse. It'll create a flexion in the toe like this. And so that's how I know these bones are moving. When the tarsals are out and there's no motion, when I go to push, this doesn't move.
Okay.
So that's how you can check and see
if it's out or whatever.
Yeah,
okay.
so what we're missing the tarsals, but you can kind of see, these are the carpals, so this is the front leg, and you can see how those bones,
Whoops.
You can see how those bones sit in there like that. That is similar to what it would look like right here for the tarsals. There's 2 rows of bones and they're sitting like that right there.
Perfect.
So that makes up your hock joint.
Okay, so and when, a lot of time when the angle of the feet, they are not good, what does it do on the horse? Because I know you look at that a lot,
Yeah, so this would be like that. So when you're talking about the angle of the hoof, we want to match the coffin bone, right? So when the coffin starts to drop like this, that's what you're calling founder. It's going through the bottom of the foot. So angle of the hoof is going to change the way the mechanism of this is. So like if the toe is longer, it's going to make them come like that, or it's going to stop the breakover. So the way that the foot breaks over like this is going to allow it to move, kind of like we were talking about when your ankle goes this way and he goes that way. If you were walking around like tiptoe, like toeing it down, you wouldn't be able to bring that hip and you would get sore. Same concept here. So when the toe is too long and they're not able to break over, you're not going to get motion all the way up like you should. It's going to restrict coming all the way up the leg. When we start getting into like the hoof angle, that I can tell you that's not right, like as far as farrier, but I try to stay out of that. That's not my expertise. I'll talk about the bone.
No, but we talk about the bone. That's what I was more saying about the angle of the foot that can affect the bone for you.
Yeah, so we just want to make sure that the angle here is matching this angle in this coffin. If you start to have that coffin drop down, then you start having a lot of issues there. And that's where they talk about like palmar angles, if you have negative, positive palmar angles. That's what that is, and you'll have to take an x-ray to kind of see what that is.
What that is, but you can see that because you told me that when an angle is not good, that affects the bones. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and I'll kind of come up so people can kind of see in here too. You can see. So that's your coffin, and it should sit in that hoof wall.
Perfect.
Okay, so this is the front leg. This is humerus, which is the same as this. And then we go into ulna and tibia, not tibia, ulna and radius.
Yes.
So ulna is right here. It's a smaller bone. This big old hump, and it comes down to here. And then radius is the larger bone here. And then you go into your carpals like we were talking about, so the same here. So this is what people call the knee, it's actually the wrist.
Okay, of the horse.
And then they'll come down into your cannon. And then when you talk about like splint boots, you can see the splint bone didn't break off. Splint bone is right here. And so it's just a really small bone, and it comes and it fuses on to that cannon bone.
So that's why we put the boots on to protect those bones.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we go into your long pastern, short pastern, and then into the coffin. Here's the sesamoid on here. It's still attached versus the other one, how it was hanging around. But you can see it just creates a larger fulcrum for that muscle tendon to go over. But I think this is really cool, like the meniscus, that you can see the bones sitting in there, the row of them. So there's 6 of them. when you're palpating that, or you can inject, people will inject this a lot too, you're going to bring that leg forward, and you should be able to move it like this and get motion in both of those, both rows. Not a whole bunch in here. You don't get a lot of subluxation in the humerus. It can.
When we talk about, because that's part of the shoulder too, a little bit, so when we feel that the shoulder is out or there's problem over there, what can you explain us?
So here's scapula.
Yeah.
So scapula is going to go in there. Scapula should have motion like this, and it comes up and comes down, right? This is the motion it does. Humerus is going to do like this. So we can show on her shoulder too, so you can kind of see it. Most commonly, you'll have problems with scapula than you will anything else. And that's actually, we're on the wrong leg.
Yeah,
that's why it looks weird.
I was
it
like...
should be on the other front leg, but we don't have it. So this is the spine of the scapula, so it should be facing the outside. So we're on the wrong leg.
So if we do that like that, but you put it... No,
yeah, but it's the wrong
not,
one.
okay.
Yeah,
perfect.
so this would attach to the body.
The body.
And then, but this is your right one, and this is the left scapula. So we're missing the leg.
Yeah, but we can explain it on your horse, and because for the movement, like, when they go forward, but sometimes like for the cutting or, the car horse, they open that shoulder too a lot, so...
So this will come across, and you'll have your lower cervical coming down, and you'll see, so like if I have a horse that won't pick up a lead, almost, I want to say like 90% of the time, if scapula and C7 are out on the same side, I will be like, hey, we fixed your problem. And they can go, and I always ask people, tell me, like it's the only way I know feedback, if I can correlate what was out versus what's the problem.
Okay.
And it's been like 90% of the time that was the problem. They were able to pick that lead back up. So scapula and C7 are really big when it comes to leads and not being able to bring that shoulder over and open it up.
Okay, perfect.
So we went over all of the skeleton here. Let's grab my horse, and then we'll put it on her body. But this is a pony, and she's full size, so it'll be a little off.
A little bit, but...
Okay, so this is Pistol. She's full size. This is a pony again. So here, this part right here is this part right here on them.
Okay.
This is this right there. All right. Femur head is going to come in and attach right in there.
So it's like if the word bone, it's right there. Okay.
Yeah. Right there. And then that's where that leg is going to come down, and we'll put that up. So then you come up in here. So to find where the lumbar, you're going to go to the last rib. So there's 18. And you're going to trace that up. So here's the end of the thoracics, and we're going into the lumbar. So these right here are from here to here. Okay, SI right there. This is called tuberococci. It's right here. That's called tuberosacali. And that's
oh my God.
There.
Okay. So my English is not good enough for me to repeat to repeat those words.
All right. So then we're gonna come like this. All right. So, and you come on here. So the withers, like I said, this, you think it kind of like curves, but it is a straight bone. The spine is straight across, and you just have the difference in the spinous processes, and that's what makes that like that. Like I said, where we're putting our weight with our saddle is sitting most of the time like right in here, which is going to be the weakest. Even if you think of a bridge, that's going to be the weakest part. So you got to strengthen this to lift that up. And then you have your ribs that come off right in here. This right here, what we call the top line, that's going to be the muscle that's coming from the spinous to the ribs. So this rib shelf that would come all the way across is going to be right here. And that's going to be where those ribs attach and come across, where you can feel them. And that's where we're when we're adjusting the ribs, you're adjusting so the rib can go like this, and we call that cranial, or it can go caudal like that. And so when we adjust, we're putting our hand here, and we adjust this way or we adjust this way. And that's how the ribs are going to go out, like this.
And because for me, I'm feeling like sometimes when the ribs are out, I'm feeling more like a pressure when they go to the right, that to open that rib cage, it's hard. So they lift their head to stay straight. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're gonna bend. I mean, if you think about your body, like it doesn't matter if you had hurt your ribs, bruised it, fell or something, you would have pain either way, right? So when you turn like this, it's gonna contract, it's gonna close down, and then that's gonna overextend it. So it's the same.
Okay.
And they can have a rotated rib cage, just like we can too, where this whole, I mean, I think there's 18 of them. The first 8 attached to the sternum right here. Sternum is gonna be right here on them. And so the rotated rib cage would be where this, like this side comes forward and this side comes back. With people, we see that a lot in car wrecks. The seatbelt will pull and it'll create a torsion in your rib cage. With horses, I haven't had enough correlation to kind of figure out why, but I would imagine something similar, like some kind of wreck. Something happens where they went down and had to like twist to get out of it, getting casted, getting stuck in the fence, something like that, which would create a rotated rib cage like that. Okay, let's draw. Actually, keep that guy and I'll put the back leg on there. Let's see if we got that. Okay, so this is, we don't have the whole leg on this side, but femur head attaches in here, so that's gonna go right in there. We're talking about stifle. So this is your stifle or your knee. Patella sits here. Patella is right there, and you can palpate it lateral medial. And then we go down. Let me grab the other leg. You can put this guy down.
Okay.
This is the wrong side. This is the right hind leg, but you can see, so it's gonna come here, right? So this is stifle, this is hock, right? So this is what everyone thinks of the hock. That's just this solid bone. This is calcaneus, just like our heel. You got your rows of tarsals, that's right here. That's actually your hock joint. And then you have that cannon, long, short, which we'll bring it down here, is gonna be like that, and then the coffin bone sits down in there. So when you were talking about the angle of the foot, you can see this is sitting more like that, right? You want to match the angle of your short pastern. So if that angle is sitting here, it's going to create a lot of
pressure,
tension.
pressure over there.
On those ligaments. So neck is going to come right like this. So C7 was on that, the thoracic, that withers one. So that comes in. C1 is right here. This is right here. This is the wing. So when you feel this bone sticking out underneath the halter, that is this that you're feeling right here, the wing of the atlas. Then you come to C2 axis, it's right here. And then your cervical spine is coming like this. And then it comes in and attaches into the spine. So that's what I was saying with your tree, like your horn when you get on. If you grab here, you have that mechanical advantage. If you grab here, look how much muscle they have. They have the mechanical advantage. So grab here and pull yourself up. Don't grab your saddle horn, and your horse will thank you for that.
You want me to? I'll switch you.
All right, hold on. Let me show the. So pull.
I can hold that.
She's like, what the heck?
What is that?
Hold on.
You're so.
There you go. So pull is going to be that joint right there, right? So it's going to be this motion. And then we have, all right, you can pull that guy out. So occiput is right here. This little hole right here, that is where the ear, this is the hole for your, where they can hear, it goes down into the brain. There's that little hole right there. So the ear is gonna be right underneath this hole. TMJ, this joint right here is right here. And then these, you can't feel them, but they're gonna be sitting right in there too. Okay, talk about nose bands on this.
Oh, yeah.
So if you have a tie down nose band, you want it up high enough. This is cartilage and then this is bone. If you have it down low, you'll be pushing on the cartilage and it makes it harder for them to breathe. You want it to make sure that—
She's like, okay, yeah, I'm done. Can you? Yeah.
You want to make sure that nose band is up high enough that it's hitting the bone and not the cartilage, because you want this airflow completely, that spot completely open.
Yeah.
Oh, blast spray's going. Here we go. This is going to sit just like this. Humerus goes like this, and then scapula is going to come here. But like I said, this is actually that one. So we got it backwards. But this part is ulna. So like our elbow, you're talking about funny bone, it would be right there. So that's this. This is your humerus. Whenever I'll motion palpate it in a second and show you what we're talking about, how that moves. You come down here. These two rows are those two rows. This is your carpals. So not the knee. The knee is actually the stifle.
The stifle, yeah.
Come down in here, you got cannon, you got the splint bone, you got long pastern, short pastern, coffin. Okay, I'll give you that. So when we were talking about, you asking about the shoulder and how that moves?
Yes.
All right, so humerus is sitting here, and it can move this way. Scapula is gonna move this way. So when you palpate it, you have to block out humerus and bring it forward, and then you're gonna palpate it up and forward. And we're looking right here, right? So that is, grab that scapula again. That is gonna be, yep, that part of it right there. And we're wanting to see it move like this. And so when the shoulder is out, you won't see any motion up there. So look right here.
Yeah.
Like I said, you're talking about millimeters. Yep.
Right here. Yeah.
Yep. And then humerus, you palpate it like this. That's the motion we get right there with that one.
Perfect. So last thing, that because we look at the bone, and thank you, it was very educative. Can we say that? Educative and very, I learned a lot, and I'm pretty sure everyone, but you talk about an app too that you had, that I will put the link under, to go see it.
Yeah, so it's called Horse Anatomy. It's Horse Anatomy Equine 3D. It's a super cool app, and you can take, so like these are the superficial muscles. You scroll, it'll go to the deeper muscles. Scroll, it goes down into the spine or the bones, and if you click on it, oh, it's not up loud. It will read it to you, and it'll tell you about it.
Wow.
So let's try that again.
Sacrum.
And it'll tell you all about the sacrum and what it does, and so it's really cool. Then you go down into the organs, and then you can even go into like the foot. It'll show you all the different ligaments and kind of explain all of that to you. You can even take quizzes, and so you can learn, and it's really, really informative. It's good.
I will put the link under.
I think when I bought it, it was like $5.99 or something, but I think it's really good if you want to learn, and it will help kind of explain it too.
Perfect. Hey, thank you again so much for sharing your knowledge, because I'm feeling sometimes people, they don't understand why their horse doesn't want to work or they are not good, but it can be the bone, it can be a lot of things, but to share it too, and to see it as a human sometimes, that helps.
Yes, it makes a big difference when you can see it, like see what's on the inside.
The inside and touch it. Hey, thank you
You're
again.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, if someone wants to contact you, they can go on your website.
You can go on website or Facebook. It's alpschiropractic.com or on Facebook, Alps Chiropractic, either one.
Perfect. Hey, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing your time with me. Please make sure to follow, like, share, subscribe on all my social media. And don't forget to leave me a review. If you want to learn more about me, visit my website, horseconfidence.com with a K, where you can also order my book.